Hi, this is Wyvern Blazewood, aka Why Not, and I'm here with one of my favorite and wondermost musicians from Second Life, Donn DeVore. Welcome, Don, and thanks for coming.
Thank you, Y. Thanks for having me.
I want to know how long you've been creating and playing music in real life.
Oh, pretty much since I was a kid. I started playing around with keyboards and little toy instruments when I was really young, like 5, 6 years old. I would figure out songs and little melodies on television or the radio, just pick them out and just be able to like listen to something and then start playing it or figure out how to play it by ear. Not so much reading music or creating anything, but just sort of emulating it, mimicking sounds. And I was good at that at an early age. And then I took lessons, guitar lessons. I played in bands in high school, rock bands, and metal bands, and psychedelic jam bands, and all kinds of stuff. And just constantly was, drawn to music, and just been doing it my whole life.
Well, what people in your life influenced you? Family, friends, or just other artists, or what?
Well, just listening to music. My parents were really influential, and they were really encouraging. They recognized early on that something was going on here. That maybe we should maybe encourage this sort of thing if he's good at this. So,
Well, they say kids who study music and play music really usually are higher achievers than people who don't have an instrument, which is pretty important, I think. If I had children, which I didn't, I would definitely have them play an instrument. Well, when did you first come to Second Life, and how did you find this place?
Well, I was watching TV, sitting on the couch one day, bored, playing World of Warcraft, and there was an article on, I think it was like MSNBC News or CNN or something, and it had a story about Second Life, just exploring the world of Second Life, and it was during the big explosion of population, and they was on the cover of Business Week and Time, maybe Time or something, a couple of magazines back then. There was just a lot of marketing and PR going on, and I was part of that wave of people that came in around that time, 2006, 2007.
Wonder how I missed all that. I really didn't. I never saw anything about Second Life anywhere, and everybody that I've interviewed has said they saw it in media.
Yeah, it was just it got a media splash, and I was like, I'm gonna check this out, and then. So I gave up World of Warcraft and just was like, I wasn't even that into that. That wasn't very exciting for me at the time. And I was like, oh, this Second Life thing seems cool. Nobody's trying to kill you, and you can just go around and build stuff and meet people and look at art. And then I found music, and I thought, wow, this is kind of interesting. I can do music.
Whoa. Well, you know what? I really thought that I would die when I first came here, when people were doing things to me, and that my avatar wouldn't come back. I didn't even know. I was like, oh my God, I fell off a cliff. I'm going to die. And there I was, still at the bottom of the cliff, all alive. It was so, I was like, oh, wow, this is cool. Well, when you came to Second Life, did you come here mostly to expand your music venue and the people that you could reach, or did you come here just to see the possibility of sharing your talents, through the program? Or
I just came here to explore and I was very interested in the technology of Second Life at the time. When I saw it, I was like, wow, this is really cool. User created, environments and continuously, giant mainland sims and whatnot that were huge, continuous, consistent pieces of virtual real estate. I thought that was fascinating, something I'd been interested in, for a long time. And when I realized it had become a reality, a virtual reality, whatever you want to call it, then I was instantly just like, wow, I want to do this. Because I'd always been interested in video games and sort of the technology of video games, music for video games, animations, texturing, all that kind of stuff. I had a passing interest in, but when I saw Second Life, I was like, wow, look at all the stuff you can do with this. This is amazing. And I thought of all the possibilities. And then I found music later, just exploring with some friends, and realized that you could stream music and do live shows and have an audience and put on these performances in a unique way.
And you reach a lot of people you would never reach.
Yeah, and the audiences back then were huge, and we were playing for hundreds of people at a time on multiple sims, connected together, and it was a big thing for a while there in 2007.
Well, that's because there's so many people now, right, that are all playing music because they discovered it.
Yeah, there's just like all day long. There's hundreds and hundreds of shows going on all the time now. So.
Well, what are some of the social media that you use to communicate with or connect with your following in your music?
Just the usual stuff. YouTube, put videos and music on YouTube when I release something new and kind of finalize a final project. I'll put it on YouTube. SoundCloud. Facebook is probably the one I go to most just to put up funny stuff or political stuff or something that's interesting to me, musical stuff, talk to people online that way.
Yeah.
And Twitter a little bit. I'm more of a consumer of Twitter more than a communicator of any kind on Twitter. I scroll. I just look at Twitter. That's pretty much.
Well, do you perform at all in the real world? Any? And if so, do you travel or just do shows locally?
Well, for the past couple of years, I've been doing some fandom-based music. Some of my fans are familiar with this, where I get involved with a cartoon animation community that's involved with My Little Pony, Friendship is Magic, and there's this whole scene online and now in the real world called Brony music, where it's people that make music that's based on cartoons, animation, and it's even expanded out into other animation and other fandoms, and Steven Universe, and I don't know, Rick and Morty, and Star Wars, and Doctor Who, and all kinds of other sort of intellectual properties that people make their own, fan-made music, art, stories, their own films, even based on what they like. And I got involved, like deeply involved in this community, and to the point where I am playing in a rock band where we do parodies, we do original music, and we perform festivals, conventions.
Are they all local
gigs.
to you, or do you travel for
Well, I've
these?
traveled around. In 2013, 2014, I traveled around quite a bit. Went on tour with a bunch of guys doing this kind of music. Played a bunch of conventions, 3 or 4 conventions that summer in 2013, and was just really into this scene. And it's not as big as it was in 2013, 2014. It's still a thing. I'm still doing it. In addition to Second Life, it's kind of this other thing in the real world that I like to go do, and I have the most fun doing it. A lot of people don't understand it because it's a kid's cartoon. It's like, what are you doing making music about this kid's cartoon? I was like, well, this is the most fun we've ever had, and if you just listen to the music, it's actually pretty good. So that's what just inspired me, and I like being able to inspire other people to create too, because it inspired me. Other musicians inspired me to start making this kind of music, and it led to all this, sort of real world performance and forming a band in Seattle and playing around and going on tour. So it's just been a really fun thing. But that's pretty much what I've been doing in real life.
Well, you need to share some of these links, URLs or whatever, with Nick so he can put them on the video here.
I will. Yeah,
people can go. Yeah. Have you ever linked up with other Second Life performers to dual stream, or ever considered doing it?
Not so much dual stream. I've only done that once, and many years ago, early on, maybe 2009, 2010. The thing that we used to do in Seattle was one of the first meetups, one of the first Second Life jams and meetups was the Seattle Jam. And we would get 10 or 15 musicians from Second Life, all from the Pacific Northwest, as far north as Alaska. Blues Heron would come down.
Wow.
Tuxo Oki would play, Lyndon Hart, Eva Moon, Dakota Pluto. We'd usually do it at his house. And we'd just have a big Second Life party. And all these players from real life would all come and get together. People would come from Montana and Idaho.
That sounds like a blast. You don't do that anymore?
Great. Oh, well, some of us aren't playing in Second Life anymore. Dakota kind of quit and is doing more stuff in real life. But so we kind of, went back to what we were doing. But it was one of the first jams that people were doing, and then doing video and things. We were kind of pioneers in that back in 2009. So
see, what year did you start in Second Life?
I started in 2006, and I started performing in 2007. So it's been about 10 years.
Well, I became familiar with you and your music several years ago. It was shortly after Fader Brown brought a group of us in Second Life we had a chat in Skype that we all got together, and he said, you need to go to Second Life. You were always a favorite of our group, and we attended a lot of your events in Second Life here. Oh, cool. And you still play some of our old favorites from time to time, but over the years, your style has morphed into something new and really different from what we once heard. We also like that new you, Can you kind of describe what style changes you've made and what motivated you to change?
Well, I've always been into electronic music and rock, and
Mm-hmm.
many variations of both. So it's never been like, oh, I'm a rock guitarist, or I'm a rock singer, or I'm, this kind of musician. I've always been very broadly based with my influences and the type of music that I make. And it's always been, as far back as I can remember, listening to, pop music when I was a kid. I was listening to Ozzy Osbourne, Quiet Riot, Michael Jackson, Herbie
Mm-hmm.
Hancock. I was
Hmm.
breakdancing, back in the
Yeah.
mid 80s, when I was a middle school kid. And I was into all kinds of music, all kinds of metal, rap, electronic music, techno, disco. And then later, you know, found classic rock and Pink Floyd and Led Zeppelin, The Doors, all this, the legendary rock influences. And I really grew to like that stuff. And I had, an era of my life where I focused on that kind of music. Leonard Skinner, Bob Dylan,
Huh?
these are all huge influences for me. But I've always leaned more towards the electronic side of things with what I've really wanted to do and really listen to all the time.
Yeah,
Um,
that's part of your sound that I really like.
yeah, it's always been a combination of guitars and synthesizers and drum machines and loops and things. Even my sort of rock songs are very um, not necessarily techno based, but they have this element to them that um, is either loop based or drum machine based or synthesizer based with a lot of guitar and rock vocals and whatnot that I do on top of that. But it's always been a combination of things. And lately, in the last couple of years, I've leaned more on the electronic side, going for more of a dance music sound, and kind of exploring that side of things. Once again, I did it a lot in the '90s when I was making music with keyboards and synthesizers and drum machines, and I just have this affinity towards this kind of music, and that's what I've been focusing on in the last year, partly due to some experiences I had with psychedelic mushrooms and
Mm.
some yoga work and healing and exploration of Eastern mysticism
Hmm.
in order to
You're,
overcome. I was overcoming some chronic illness from toxic mold exposure, and
oh,
all this music is kind of, in a way, it's like it helps me heal. It's kind of
yeah.
cathartic in a way. It's shamanic in a way that uh, four on the floor, repetitious beats, that that kind of
Mm.
sound. In a way, it puts you in a state of mind where you get into a trance. That's why they call it trance music,
Yeah.
And you get into a trance state, and in that state, your body can do some things that it can't normally do when you're in just a regular conscious state of mind. So, including healing yourself and releasing emotions and releasing tensions. And for me, that's part of what it is. That's part of why I do this kind of music. It's a cathartic process for me.
That's intriguing to me. That is. But, I never thought about it that way. Well,
Yeah, so even going back early on in my, music history, a lot of it was influenced by, well, not, it was a combination of exploring music and psychedelic drugs at the same time, all the way back to when I was 16, 17 years old, listening to Pink Floyd, listening to Black Sabbath, taking acid, taking mushrooms as a kid, and just exploring this music. And that changed my life, and that steered the direction of my life greatly. I made decisions on to be a recording engineer or to be a musician and to pursue this as a career based on those experiences. So, and even now, the experiences I've had recently with mushrooms is really kind of guided the direction of what I'm doing now. So,
cool. Well, maybe you can ship me some. Can you share with us one of your most memorable moments from Second Life in your early days here? It could be something funny, fun, scary, a proud moment, something that just stands
oh,
out in your mind from when you first came here to Second Life.
oh, well, I remember the first week of going to the shelter and the info hub. I think the Isabel or is something info hub on the mainland, and just learning how to dance and just being like kind of scared and being like, "What is all this? Who are these people? This is kind of weird and freaky." But I think as far as in playing music, the one of the best things and also the most awkward thing was I was performing at an award show. It was like the Best of SL or one of those types of award shows, and I was singing a song, "Dream of You," one of my songs, and
Hmm.
there's 100 stars sitting out in the audience. We managed to get 100 people in this sim, and
Wow.
out there all in formals, and it's being recorded and broadcast, and it's a big deal. I mean, there's like a lot going on with this at the time, and someone in the audience in chat says, "This is not live." And I saw that while I was performing, and I basically had to address a heckler in the middle of my song,
Wow.
to justify myself being live on this award show in front of hundreds of people. And I was like, this is kind of weird.
Well, yeah, and you needed to do that because they wouldn't know if you didn't do it, right?
Yeah, and the fact that you are reading chat and responding to them, within a few seconds is.
Randy, you liar. Randy's saying it was him.
I remember.
Well, other than your music, what are some other things you like to do in Second Life, or do you even have time to do anything besides music here?
Oh, I like to hang out and blow stuff up and drop thousands of prims on people while they're trying to build something. Or
oh, great! I'm an anti-greed.
no, I'm just kidding. I usually I play some games with my friends. We play with vehicles and planes and trains and boats and helicopters and all kinds of fun things to just goof
well, I'm
around.
sure you've been here so long that you've been to the Virtual Railway Consortium, haven't you?
Yes. I've been all
Oh,
over
I
the
love
railways,
that. I
explored
spent
all of mainland,
days. Oh gosh, days on that
like
train.
airports. Yep.
Oh yeah. Well, can you
And,
share some information about your group and how people can find where and when all your events will be performed in Second Life?
Yeah, my group is called the Blue Maverick Group in Second Life. I can want me to post that in chat, or just want to put that on a link?
Well, you can give it to Nick, and he can stick it at the beginning or the end of this. Probably
Okay,
the end.
yeah, I'll just-
Yeah.
copy paste all that stuff to him at the end of this.
Yeah,
But,
maybe
it's
even
the
a
Blue
video
Maverick
link
Group.
of you
And then
playing.
my YouTube channel. You can follow me on Twitter, Facebook, SoundCloud. There's a lot more music on SoundCloud than there is on YouTube. So if they want to
Okay.
sort of sift through my discography and library of music over the last several years, SoundCloud's a good place to do that. So.
Okay, that's so cool. Well, I want to thank you for taking time out of your busy real life and Second Life to come here today and let me share your Second Life music with other people. And hopefully Nick will have a clip or two to put at the beginning and the end of this interview to just give a taste of, your music.
Yeah,
That'd be wonderful.
Yeah. Well, thank you
Thanks
for
a
the
lot.
opportunity to just talk about myself here. I don't get the opportunity to do this very much, and I think it's amazing that I'm still doing this. After 10 years or so, 9 years of performing in Second Life, that we're still doing this, and it's still.
Well,
a thing,
we're glad you are, because I do enjoy coming there, and Fader still follows you around all the time.
Yep.
But thanks a lot, Don, for your time. Donn DeVore here with Why Not. Bye, all.
fire takes this life, but spirit lives on, never dies. No other place I'd rather be than at that end, just you and me. Hail of fire takes this life, but spirit lives on,